First, we had quiet quitting. Now we have quiet cracking. But let's call a spade a spade. Isn't this just a symptom of a larger problem? Listen in. Hello, welcome back to the Hello You Show. My name is Jessica Rice, and I'm your host. Well, it's been all the buzz on LinkedIn, making its rounds from reels to thought leaders, the term quiet cracking. Now, I want to ask you a question. What does it mean when we feel too afraid to leave our role, exit corporate, or even go after our larger dreams? When we're paralyzed by fear because the thought of leaving scares us more than the idea of staying, then that is quiet cracking. But let's really be real. Isn't this just another term for burnout? When I was growing up, this term was also known as having a mental breakdown. It makes me think of that movie Falling Down with Michael Douglas, which came out in 1993. No, I wasn't an adult in 1993, but I do remember that movie and how shocking it seemed to me, even as a preteen, to think about anyone reaching this level in their life. Now, I first spoke about my own experiences with burnout way back in episode 15, and it was funny looking back. We've really come a long way with the show since then. But what really struck me was how everyone at that time kept telling me that what I was really doing was quiet quitting. Now, we have all these terms, quiet cracking, quiet quitting, but at the end of the day, it really has to do with our mental state and what it is that our intentions are. See, when I was leaving corporate, it really wasn't that quiet for those who knew me and what it is that I was looking to achieve. It's just that I wasn't telling everyone in the upper echelons of my company. But I wasn't quiet quitting. I wasn't in a desperate plea for some new role that could be satisfied in corporate. In fact, I had already interviewed with several different companies, some of them pretty big, some of them up and coming, and all of them were not going to be the right fit for me. And when I interviewed with them, and really I was interviewing them, I decided that I would rather stay in the role that I was already in than try to leave and learn a new role while I was already in the middle of my own exit strategy. It was very deliberate. It was very intentional. All of the work that I was doing to lead up to my corporate transition into running my own business. But that's not to say that I didn't experience burnout, because I did. I was running a team. We were running large projects. I was a part of strategic initiatives. I also was finishing up certifications. I had 20 clients that I was servicing as an executive coach. I was figuring out the ins and outs of running a business, sales systems, sales cycles, things I never really paid much attention to while I was still in corporate. And I was homeschooling my son who has ADHD and dyslexia. So when I finally transitioned, it was a sign for my body to release. And I didn't really understand the impact that I was facing in terms of burnout until I finally walked away. Now, this isn't really the state that we want anyone to get to, because there's burnout that's hyperactive, just like there's hyperactive depression, right? There's very active levels of depression. And then there's forms of burnout, forms of depression where we feel lethargic or we can't do anything or we're wondering what's wrong with us. Now, sometimes we, out of survival, have to go into the mode of do, and create and just survive. We're in survival mode. But when we no longer are putting ourselves into that place, sometimes we find ourselves in the opposite state. So how do we start to overcome that? How do we get to a point where we're not quiet cracking, so that we're not reaching a point where we're either in a physical or a mental health crisis? And this is the question I feel like is most important for us to be talking about, not necessarily debating whether quiet cracking or quiet quitting are all just terms for what we previously referred to as burnout, but really what happens when we stay too long? What starts to take place for us? What starts to happen not only within our bodies, but within our psyche? Now, there's very real dangers that can start to take place both for us physically and mentally. And if you know my story, then you know that I have experienced extreme physical stress in my life, which then created IBD, which then created challenges in relation to a gastric perforation, which was very scary for me in my life at that time. But also the mental state, going back to that movie Falling Down and really going postal, those are all the things that we want to avoid. The second question is, what does it do to our overall belief? And I feel like this is honestly the most important question that we need to be asking ourselves if we're in a position where we're starting to feel the effects of burnout, or maybe we're starting to feel more disengaged. While Adam Grant does describe quiet cracking as another term for burnout, thank you, Adam, for confirming my own thoughts around this. He described it as when we quietly disengage from our roles due to being overworked, undervalued, and disrespected. Now, he's an organizational psychologist, and as someone who's worked mostly with individuals and some teams in the executive space, what I really like to know about is how it impacts our own self-efficacy. Because the longer that we stay in roles where we are silently dying inside, I want to know how that impacts our own belief in relation to going after our bigger dreams, creating that new beginning. Because that's really what we're all wanting, right? That's really what this is all about. How do we create a new beginning for ourselves? How do we create a life where we feel fulfilled, where we don't feel like we're silently cracking every single day? So rather than debating what quiet cracking is, I really want to think about what are solutions that you could be coming up with right now to help you create a plan, create an exit strategy, create a system to further go after your goals. And that's what I care most about when I'm working with clients who have big, hairy, audacious goals and sometimes are holding themselves back. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take and find a piece of paper, take it from your printer, pull it out of a journal, whatever you need to do. I want you to take this piece of paper, I want you to turn it sideways. I want you to fold this piece of paper in half, and I want you to draw a line horizontally across the paper along the fold. Now, at the beginning of your line, going from left to right, I want you to put a dot. This is where you are today. And at the opposite end of that line, I want you to draw another little dot. And this is what you want to create. This is what you want to build toward. This is what you want your future state, your new beginning to be. Now, in between these dots, I want you to start listing out what are the things that you need to put into place to get from where you are today to this new dot, this future state. What are all of the things that you need to start thinking about to get you here? Is it a certification? How long will it take? What's the investment? How much time do you need to set aside each week? Is it developing a product or a service? Is it understanding what your unique IP is so that you then can create an offer, a business, a professional service that you provide for people? Is it filing your articles of incorporation and launching your business? Is it growing your network, speaking on stages, or building your following? What will it take to get you there? What are all the things that you need to think about to get you there? Now, I want you to look at all of this and I want you to draw a circle around the number one most impactful, most important item on that list, on that line. What's the number one thing that you need to really put into place to get you there? What's the number one thing? That's your focus. That's your goal. That's the thing that you're going to start working toward every week, every day, every month. And I want you to start considering, how long is it going to take you to achieve this? How will you break that down? What are the various little pieces, the little steps that will get you to that focus that's leading you to your greater goal? You see, everything else will come. Everything else will start to fall into place once you understand what your focus is. But sometimes we think our focus is that larger goal, when in reality, our focus needs to be the thing that's going to be the catalyst to get us to that larger goal. What's the vehicle? And for me, it was certifications. For me, I had to have a series of certifications in order to receive my ICF certification, in order for me to then be able to contract with larger companies, in order for me then to grow my client base, and in order for me to transition the amount of income that I was making from corporate into my business so that I could have a clean transition. We don't give ourselves the opportunity to plan because we're too busy thinking about our failure. We're too busy thinking about why it won't work. And what you're doing is ignoring all of the pieces in the middle and only focusing on this larger thing that you've built nothing towards. Now, you might have some accolades, you might have some of the things in place that you need already. What are those? Have you identified them? How can you package them up? How can you position them to help you succeed, to be your catalyst? And sometimes we get caught up in the technology. We think we have to have all these fancy tools and ways and systems just to begin. We'll build out Miro boards and mind map, and we'll build out project plans and ClickUp or whatever tools that you're using, when none of that truly matters. This little piece of paper, that's all you need to start getting started. That's all you need. And this is exactly how I transitioned from my corporate role into running a business. Series of micro steps. And you need to have one large goal. You need to have a series of milestones, and you need to have the flexibility to fail. Why? Because you're going to need to be able to pivot. You cannot hold fast to one idea, one approach, one thought. It's always changing, just as in business, just as in life. So you have to bake in the ability to be flexible, which is why I don't tell you to focus on creating a perfect plan. I tell you to focus on creating this one goal, this one achievement, this one thing that you're shooting for that you know will be the thing that helps you to reach that end state. Most of us hold ourselves back because we don't believe. We have excuses around time. We have excuses around effort. We have excuses around the risk involved or giving up our careers entirely. But that's not really it. The truth is that you're afraid that you're not good enough. You're not good enough to make it happen. And the longer that you stay inside of this role that's silently killing you, the longer that you continue to crack, the more your self-efficacy, your belief, your soul will break if you don't have a plan. The only way to get out of this quiet cracking mode, even when you're in a role that undervalues you, underestimates you, overworks you, is to create a plan, to take action. Neuroscience tells us this. The success principles tell us this. The laws of the universe tell us this. You don't need to know all of those because you already do. You have to work on your ability to believe and your ability to find that first step, that first action, that first leap of faith that you're going to make on yourself. The bets are all on you. So I want you to write down on your sheet of paper, turn it over, write this down. What's one brave move that you're going to make this week? What's one boundary that you're going to put in place? And what's one question that you're going to answer for yourself this week. Plan your exit strategy and go. If this resonates for you and you're feeling the pull to create something bigger in your life and you want the support and you need the help, and maybe there's some questions on the how, knowing that there is a new beginning out there that you want to build, then I invite you to take your first next move and join us inside of the Powerhouse Legacy Collective. This is not where we're just practicing leadership. This is where we are building sustainable businesses, success, and creating systems that enable us to move from one point in time to another. So you can visit the Powerhouse Legacy Collective to learn more. I want you to think about everything that you've got going for you. If you are in a place where you feel stuck, don't allow yourself to be stuck. I know that I wasn't sure how I was going to make it happen for myself. I didn't know what other types of roles would be a right fit for me. And I really had to sit down and think about, what is it that I want to do? What are the moves I need to make? And how can I start creating a plan for myself so that I have a sustainable system in place? So I have a light at the end of the tunnel so that I know what I'm working toward every single day. I couldn't leave my job right away. I couldn't just bounce to the next role or just rage quit or whatever it is that the next term might be. I had to financially provide for my family, but I needed to do it in a way that was systematic, sustainable, and would get me to where I needed to go. So I invite you to come check us out. Thanks so much for joining me this week. It's a new season. I'm very excited. Some wonderful guests are coming onto the show, so stay tuned. We'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for tuning in to the Hello You Show. It's been a pleasure to have you with us on this journey today. If you found value in our conversation and want to support the show, please take a moment to like, follow, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. We'd also deeply appreciate it if you could leave us a review. Your feedback not only helps us grow, but also enables others seeking inspiration and authenticity to discover our community. Until next time, keep embracing your story with purpose.